You know, I always thought I had it all figured out. I had built my life around the belief that loyalty was everything. To me, marriage was simple. Find the right woman, stay loyal, build a life, and you'd be happy forever. I thought I'd done just that when I met Lisa. We were young, in love, and everything seemed so perfect. Lisa and I had been together for over 15 years. We had our ups and downs, sure, but I always believed we were solid. She had this way of making me feel like I was the luckiest man alive. I used to look at other couples and think, man, I'm glad I'm not in their shoes. The arguments, the fights. I thought we were immune to that. In my mind, we were untouchable. I had dreams too, just like anyone else. Growing old together, sitting on our porch, watching the sunset, maybe with a grandkid or two running around. I didn't need much, just peace, love, and the woman I thought would stand by me no matter what. That's the thing about beliefs, though. They make you feel safe, like nothing can go wrong. And I clung to that belief in Lisa, in us, with everything I had. I mean, why wouldn't I? She was my wife, the one person I thought I could count on forever. But sometimes, the things you believe in the most are the ones that hurt you the worst when they fall apart. I remember that day vividly, like it's burned into my mind. It started as an ordinary Saturday. I was out in the yard, doing some landscaping, just trying to keep my mind busy while the nagging feeling about Lisa crept deeper into my gut. Our neighbor, Tom, came over and I thought, okay, good, some company. Tom and I had always gotten along well, sharing BBQs and the occasional beer. But that day, there was something different about him. He seemed uneasy, like he had something on his mind but didn't know how to say it. After some small talk about the weather and yard work, he paused. He took a deep breath, and I could see the hesitation in his eyes. My heart raced. "Hey, Mike," he finally said, "I don't want to get involved in anything, but I've seen Lisa around a lot lately." I chuckled nervously. "Yeah, she's been busy with work. You know how it is." But then Tom looked at me, and I could tell he wasn't joking. "No, man. I've seen her with someone else. They've been meeting up a few times. I just thought you should know." My world flipped upside down. I felt like the ground had dropped from under me. "What are you talking about?" I stammered, trying to process what he was saying. My mind raced, going through all those little clues I had ignored, suddenly making sense in the worst possible way. Tom explained that he'd seen Lisa getting into a car with a man from a nearby office. They looked cozy, laughing, and talking like they were more than just friends. It felt surreal. I wanted to scream at him, to tell him he was wrong. But deep down, that part of me, the part that had sensed something was off, began to accept it. I can't even describe the mix of emotions that flooded me. Anger, disbelief, heartache. It was overwhelming. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, my hands shaking. I didn't know whether to thank Tom for telling me or to hate him for putting the truth in front of me like this. When I got home, the world felt different. I looked at Lisa as if she were a stranger. How could she do this? How could she betray everything we had built together? The thought of her with someone else twisted my insides, and all I could do was replay those small clues in my mind, wishing I had paid closer attention. But here was the truth, smacking me in the face. My Lisa, the woman I trusted above all, had crossed a line I never thought she would. I stood there, frozen, caught in a storm of confusion and pain, knowing I had to confront her. But how? What do you say when your whole world has just come crashing down around you? In the days that followed Tom's revelation, I found myself caught in this suffocating fog of denial. I kept replaying our conversations, searching for some sign, some piece of evidence that could prove he was wrong. My mind desperately tried to shield me from the harsh reality that Lisa might be unfaithful. I'd watch her move around the house, laughing at jokes I couldn't hear, lost in thoughts that felt miles away. Every time she smiled at me, I felt this sick twist in my stomach. Was it genuine, or just a mask she wore to hide the truth? I wanted to shake her, to ask if she was still the woman I fell in love with, or if she had become someone else entirely. I remember sitting across from her at dinner one night, the silence so thick it was almost suffocating. She was chatting about her day, and I could barely focus on her words. My mind was screaming, "Ask her, confront her," but the fear of what I might hear kept me locked in place. What if I was wrong? What if I shattered our lives over a rumor? I tried to find comfort in denial. I told myself that maybe Tom had misinterpreted things. Maybe he saw her with a coworker or a friend. After all, people do spend time together at work. It doesn't mean anything, right? I wanted to believe that Lisa would never betray me. I wanted to cling to the life we had built and ignore the growing fear in the pit of my stomach. But every time I closed my eyes, I pictured her with that man, the way Tom described their laughter, the closeness that was meant for me. I felt like a stranger in my own home. I wanted to confront her, to demand the truth, but I was paralyzed by this overwhelming fear of losing her. What if my suspicions were unfounded? What if I pushed her away for good? So I kept quiet, pretending everything was fine, smiling when I should have been asking questions. I buried myself in work, trying to distract myself from the truth that loomed over me like a dark cloud. But the harder I tried to ignore it, the more it consumed me. I found myself constantly looking at her, searching for the slightest hint of guilt, but she seemed oblivious to the storm brewing inside me. It was a dangerous game. Living in this state of denial, I felt like I was teetering on the edge of a cliff, afraid to take a step forward or backward. I wanted to trust her, but I was terrified of what I might find if I did. Deep down, I knew I had to face the truth. But what if that truth shattered everything? What if I discovered that the love we shared was just a beautiful facade, hiding a painful betrayal? So I kept quiet, stuck in this limbo between hope and despair, hoping against hope that the reality I was so afraid of wasn't true. Every day became a battle within myself. I was caught in a whirlwind of thoughts, my mind spinning between the love I had for Lisa and the overwhelming fear of losing her. I tried to convince myself that everything was fine, but each moment spent in her presence felt like walking on a tightrope. One misstep, one question, and I could plunge into a dark abyss I wasn't sure I'd ever come back from. The internal conflict gnawed at me. I found myself replaying our past, scrutinizing every shared laugh, every intimate moment. Were those memories real, or had I been blind to the truth? I began to doubt everything: my worth, my value as a husband. Was I not enough for her? The thought pierced me like a dagger. I couldn't shake the feeling that maybe I had failed her somehow. I noticed myself becoming distant, retreating into a shell I had never known before. Friends would call, and I'd brush them off with vague excuses. I didn't want to talk about my problems. I didn't want to seem weak. The thought of confiding in anyone felt impossible. What would I say? Hey, my wife might be cheating on me, but I'm not sure. The shame alone was suffocating. At work, I was a shell of my former self. I'd sit in meetings, nodding along while my mind was elsewhere, trapped in a haze of doubt and despair. My colleagues began to notice my distraction, and it only added to my internal strife. I felt like I was failing everywhere. At home, at work, even in my friendships. My self-esteem was crumbling, and I was powerless to stop it. The worst part was the image in the mirror. I avoided it as much as possible. Every time I caught a glimpse, I saw a man I barely recognized. Tired eyes, unkempt hair, and this heavy weight of sorrow etched across my face. I wanted to scream, to shake the image away. This isn't me, I thought. I'm not this guy. But the truth was, I was becoming that guy, one who doubted his worth, one who felt betrayed not just by Lisa, but by himself. I started to lose interest in things I once loved, like running or working on my car. I was too consumed by the fear of losing Lisa to engage in anything that brought me joy. It felt like my whole life was being sucked into a black hole of uncertainty. I wanted to confront Lisa. I wanted to demand answers and to reclaim my sense of self. But that fear held me back. What if I was wrong? What if I was just overreacting? The possibility of making a mistake loomed over me, freezing me in my tracks. Every moment I spent avoiding the truth only made the internal conflict worse. I felt like I was in a fight with myself, and with each passing day, I could feel the ground beneath me becoming less stable. I knew I had to make a choice soon, but I was terrified of what that choice would mean for my heart, my marriage, and my entire life. The day had come when I could no longer ignore the truth that was eating me alive. I couldn't keep pretending that everything was okay while my heart was in turmoil. The fear of losing Lisa had finally been overshadowed by the need for clarity, and I knew I had to confront her. But as I paced the house, rehearsing what I wanted to say, my heart raced with anxiety. It was a Thursday evening when I decided to approach her. The air felt thick, almost electric with tension. I could hear Lisa in the kitchen, humming softly as she prepared dinner. The smell of garlic and herbs wafted through the air, reminding me of the good times we shared. But that comfort was quickly overshadowed by the weight of what I had to do. I took a deep breath and walked into the kitchen. She turned, smiled, and asked how my day was. I felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, peering into an abyss. "Lisa, we need to talk," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "What's wrong?" she asked, and I could see her eyes searching mine. "I heard something from Tom," I started. "He said he's seen you with someone else." The moment hung in the air like a suspended drop of water, heavy and threatening to crash. Lisa's expression shifted instantly. "What? That's ridiculous. Tom must have misunderstood." Her voice was shaky, but there was a hint of defiance in it. "Is it? I can't ignore it anymore," I pressed, my voice growing steadier. "You've been distant, and I can't help but feel like something is wrong. I need to know the truth, Lisa." I watched her face closely, but she looked back at me with wide eyes, as if I had slapped her. "How could you even think that?" she retorted. "I love you. You're being paranoid." The anger in her voice ignited something within me. I felt the years of love, trust, and loyalty teetering on the edge of a precipice. "Paranoid? I'm not being paranoid. I'm just trying to understand. You've changed so much, and I need to know why." "You don't understand," she exclaimed, her voice trembling. "It's been so hard for me lately, and I didn't know how to talk to you about it." "I never meant to hurt you," she said. "I was scared, overwhelmed. I thought we could work through it. I didn't think it would come to this." In that moment, everything felt like a whirlwind of emotions: anger, heartbreak, confusion. I wanted to scream, to demand answers, but instead, I felt a wave of despair wash over me. I stood there, grappling with the realization that this moment could shatter everything we had built. I had wanted honesty, but at what cost? The weight of the truth crashed over me like a wave, pulling me under. I didn't know if I could forgive her. I didn't even know if I wanted to. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about me, my pain, my worth, and the life I thought we had together. "Do you still love him?" I asked, the words slipping out before I could stop them. The answer to that question would define everything. The air in the kitchen grew heavy as Lisa's tears fell like raindrops, but they only served to deepen my own turmoil. I felt as if the world had tilted off its axis. "Do you still love him?" echoed in my mind, taunting me, demanding an answer. I stood there, heart pounding, waiting for her response. Lisa looked up at me, her eyes a blend of sorrow and uncertainty. I don't know," she finally admitted, her voice barely a whisper. "I thought I could figure it all out without hurting you. I didn't want to face this. I didn't want to hurt you." That admission felt like a knife twisting in my gut. The betrayal was a living thing, clawing at my insides. I had always thought of us as a team, partners in everything. But in that moment, it felt like we were worlds apart. I could hardly breathe as the weight of her confession crushed me. "I've spent my entire life trusting you, and this is how you repay me?" I choked out, feeling the heat of anger and heartbreak coursing through my veins. "I gave you my heart, Lisa. I thought you were my forever." I could see her trembling, the pain on her face mirroring my own. But in that moment, it didn't matter. My heart felt shattered, each piece cutting deeper than the last. I wanted to scream, to make her understand the depth of my pain, but all I could do was stand there, frozen in disbelief. The thoughts raced through my mind. How could she do this? Why wasn't I enough? What did I miss? Each question was a wound, a reminder of my worthlessness. I was supposed to be her rock, her support. Yet here I was, reeling from the blow of her betrayal. I felt my world collapsing, and in that moment, I was just a man, lost in an ocean of grief and confusion. The life we had built together, the love, the memories, everything, felt tainted. I wanted to cling to those memories, but they felt like ghosts, haunting me with the laughter we once shared, the dreams we had for our future. "I thought you were happy," I managed to say, my voice trembling with a mix of anger and hurt. "Were you ever truly happy with me? Or was I just a placeholder until someone better came along?" Lisa looked at me, her eyes wide with realization. "No, Mike, please. It wasn't like that. I thought I could figure it out on my own, but I lost myself along the way. I didn't mean to hurt you." Her words felt like a hollow echo in the vast emptiness that had settled in my chest. I wanted to believe her, but every word felt like sand slipping through my fingers. I had opened my heart to her, only for her to shatter it without a second thought. Each beat of my heart felt heavier than the last. I could feel the ache radiating through my chest, a physical manifestation of the emotional turmoil inside. I wanted to reach out, to touch her one last time. But my hand trembled, unsure if I could bridge that distance again. "I need time, Lisa," I finally said, my voice barely above a whisper. I can't do this right now." As I turned away, the walls of our home felt like they were closing in on me. The once familiar space now felt foreign, a painful reminder of everything I had lost. I walked out of the kitchen, leaving her there, tears streaming down her face, and stepped into the cool night air, desperately seeking clarity amid the chaos. The heartbreak was unbearable, a visceral pain that threatened to engulf me. I knew I had to confront the truth of what had happened, but the thought of doing so filled me with dread. Would I ever be able to trust again? Would I ever feel whole after this? In that moment, under the vast sky dotted with stars, I felt utterly alone. That night, sleep eluded me. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing with thoughts that felt more like a storm than a calm reflection. The moonlight spilled through the window, casting a soft glow, but it did little to ease the turmoil within. I felt like I was trapped in a labyrinth of my own emotions, each path leading to a dead end. I kept replaying the confrontation with Lisa over and over in my head. The pain in her eyes, the tears that fell like silent apologies. It was all so overwhelming. Part of me wanted to comfort her, to believe that our love could conquer this. But another part, a louder part, screamed that I would be a fool to ignore what had just happened. What did I really want? Could I forgive her? Could I ever see her the same way again? I imagined our life together, the love we had shared, and yet the image was tainted by the betrayal. It felt like standing on the edge of a cliff, knowing that one step could lead to either healing or further heartbreak. I pulled my phone from the nightstand, scrolling through old photos of us, vacations, holidays, moments that felt so distant now. My heart ached as I realized how naive I had been, believing that our love was unbreakable. But could I stay in a marriage where trust had been shattered? The thought made my stomach churn. What if I chose to leave? Would that be the right decision? I could escape this unbearable pain, but at what cost? I loved her. We had built a life together. But the thought of staying and constantly questioning her loyalty felt like a weight I wasn't sure I could bear. I imagined telling my friends about the situation. Some would likely urge me to move on, to reclaim my life. Others would insist on the importance of forgiveness and rebuilding. I felt torn between the desire for closure and the fear of losing the love I had fought so hard to maintain. Then, there was the question of what lay ahead if I chose to stay. Would I always be looking over my shoulder, wondering if she was still in contact with that man? Would I always feel like I was second-guessing every moment we spent together? The idea was exhausting, and it made me question my self-worth. Did I deserve to feel this way? I thought about the possibility of starting over, of finding someone new who could offer a love that was pure, untainted by betrayal. But was I ready for that? The thought of opening my heart to someone new felt daunting. I wasn't sure I could risk being vulnerable again, not after everything I had endured. As the hours passed, the weight of the decision loomed larger. I knew I had to face it soon. The uncertainty was suffocating. I had to ask myself, was love enough to mend the broken pieces of our relationship? Could I truly forgive her and allow us both the chance to heal? In the depths of my mind, I felt a small flicker of hope, a belief that perhaps love could be rebuilt, stronger than before. But then doubt crept back in, whispering that the scars of betrayal would always remain. With the dawn approaching, I realized I was standing at a crossroads. I could either fight for our love, risking more heartache, or I could walk away, seeking the solace that came with leaving the past behind. But which path would lead me to true happiness? After a sleepless night filled with turmoil, I woke up with a heavy heart and a mind still clouded by doubt. I knew I couldn't face this alone. As much as I wanted to bury myself in my thoughts, I realized that I needed to reach out to my friends and family for support. Isolation would only deepen the pain, and I had to confront the reality of my situation. I decided to call my best friend Jake. He had always been my rock, the the one person I could rely on no matter the circumstances. As the phone rang, I felt a mix of anticipation and dread. Would he judge me? Would he understand the pain I was experiencing? "Hey Mike, what's up?" he answered, his cheerful voice cutting through the fog of my emotions. "Can we talk?" "I really need to meet up," I said, my voice shaky. "Of course, man. I'm on my way." Within 30 minutes, we were sitting at our favorite diner, the familiar smell of coffee and pancakes wafting through the air. Jake looked at me, concern etched on his face. "You okay? You seem off." I took a deep breath, the weight of my pain spilling out as I recounted everything: the confrontation with Lisa, the uncertainty of our future, the emotional turmoil that had become my constant companion. I could see the disbelief in Jake's eyes as I shared the details, but there was also a flicker of understanding. "Man, I'm so sorry you're going through this," he said, shaking his head. "That's brutal. You don't deserve it." His words struck a chord within me. Hearing someone acknowledge my pain validated my feelings in a way I hadn't expected. As we talked, I felt the pressure begin to lift. I needed to share my burden, and Jake was willing to listen without judgment. "Have you thought about what you want to do?" he asked after I finished my story. "Do you think you can rebuild from this?" I hesitated, the question lingering in the air. "I don't know, Jake. Part of me wants to fight for our marriage, but the other part is terrified of being hurt again. I just don't know if I can trust her." "Trust is huge, man. It's like the foundation of your relationship. If that's broken, it's tough to rebuild." His words resonated deeply, echoing the doubts swirling in my mind. As we continued talking, I realized how important it was to have someone who understood the intricacies of my situation. I could feel the weight of my emotional turmoil easing just by sharing it. The conversation shifted to other things: sports, work, and our old memories, bringing a sense of normalcy that I desperately needed. But as we finished our meal, I couldn't help but feel the shadows of my problems creeping back in. "Thanks for being here, Jake," I said as we stood to leave. "I really needed this." "Anytime, man, just remember, you're not alone in this. Lean on us," he reassured me, his words settling into my heart like a warm blanket. When I got home, I decided to reach out to my sister Sarah too. She had always been supportive, and I knew she would listen without judgment. I hesitated for a moment before dialing her number, but when she answered, her warmth enveloped me. "Hey, big bro. What's going on?" I took a deep breath and shared my story once more, the words flowing more easily this time. "I don't know what to do, Sarah. I feel lost." "You're going through something incredibly tough," she replied, her voice steady. "You need to take care of yourself first. Give yourself the time to heal, whatever that looks like." Her perspective offered me a glimmer of hope. I had been so focused on what Lisa had done and how it impacted me that I hadn't taken a moment to think about my own needs. "What if I choose to leave?" I asked, the question hanging in the air. "Then you choose what's best for you. Life is too short to be unhappy. You deserve love and loyalty," she said firmly. As we ended the call, I felt a little more grounded, a little less alone. I knew I still had a long way to go, but with the support of my friends and family, I began to see that perhaps I could navigate this storm. I had people who cared about me, who would stand by my side no matter what. That realization sparked something within me, a flicker of strength I didn't know I had. I had to decide my next steps, not just for Lisa, but for myself. After those heart-to-heart conversations with Jake and Sarah, something shifted within me. I spent the next few days reflecting on my life, piecing together the fragments of who I was before Lisa's betrayal. I realized that amid the chaos, I had been neglecting one crucial aspect: myself. I started to remember the dreams I had put aside, the hobbies I had neglected while focusing on our life together. I used to love painting. It was a passion I had abandoned in the rush of everyday life, a way to express my emotions without saying a word. I dug through the garage and found my old easel and paints, dusting them off like long-lost friends. As I sat up in the living room, I felt a mix of apprehension and excitement. I squeezed the paint tubes, the vibrant colors oozing out like the emotions I had bottled up for too long. With each stroke of the brush, I poured my feelings onto the canvas. The heartbreak, the confusion, the anger, and ultimately, the flickering hope I was beginning to feel. At first, my hand trembled, unsure of how to express the turmoil inside. But gradually, as I lost myself in the rhythm of the brush and the colors blending before me, I felt liberated. I was channeling my pain into something beautiful, a representation of my journey through the storm. The act of creation became my therapy, a way to reclaim my identity amid the chaos. As the days passed, I noticed a change in myself. I started taking walks in the early morning, feeling the sun warm my skin and the fresh air fill my lungs. The world felt vibrant and alive, a stark contrast to the darkness that had clouded my mind. I began to realize that I had the power to shape my own path, regardless of the choices Lisa had made. I picked up the phone one afternoon and called an old colleague, Mark, who had always inspired me with his zest for life. I had admired his ability to pursue his passions without fear. We met for coffee, and as we talked, I shared my recent struggles. "You know, it's okay to feel lost sometimes," he said, his eyes kind and understanding. "It's part of finding your way back to yourself." His words struck a chord deep within me. I had spent so long feeling like a victim of my circumstances that I hadn't seen the potential for growth within me. It was as if a light had been switched on, illuminating the dark corners of my heart and mind. That evening, I returned home and stood before the canvas I had been working on. I felt a surge of determination. I didn't have to let Lisa's actions define me. I could choose to embrace this moment as an opportunity for growth. With each brushstroke, I poured in my newfound strength. I painted not just the hurt, but also the resilience that was rising from within me. I was a man capable of rebuilding, of creating a life filled with love and loyalty, whether it was with Lisa or someone new. As I stepped back to admire my work, I felt a sense of pride. The colors were bold and raw, a reflection of my journey and the turmoil I had endured. It was a testament to my strength, to the fact that even in the face of heartbreak, I could rise again. That night, I slept with a lighter heart. I was beginning to understand that my happiness didn't depend on anyone else's choices. It was within me, waiting to be embraced. I was no longer just a husband grappling with betrayal. I was Michael, a man reclaiming his life, ready to face whatever came next. With each passing day, I felt stronger and more in tune with myself. I spent time painting, exploring my interests, and reconnecting with friends, but something was still missing. I had begun to crave connection again, a companionship that was built on trust and mutual respect. One Friday evening, I decided to attend a local art exhibition. The gallery buzzed with excitement, vibrant colors, and the sounds of laughter filling the space. As I wandered through the rooms, admiring the various works, I felt a sense of peace. This was my environment, a world where creativity thrived, and I was finally starting to find my place within it. While admiring a particularly striking piece, I heard a soft voice beside me. "Isn't it captivating? The way the colors blend together feels like a dance," she said. I turned to see a woman with warm brown eyes and a genuine smile, her enthusiasm contagious. "Absolutely," I replied, caught off guard by her charm. "It's like it tells a story." We started chatting, sharing our thoughts on the artwork, and eventually veering into our personal lives. Her name was Emily, and as we talked, I found myself captivated by her spirit. She was passionate about art, had a vibrant energy, and spoke of life with a refreshing honesty. As the evening progressed, we wandered through the gallery together, discussing everything from our favorite artists to our dreams for the future. I felt a spark, a connection that ignited something inside me that I thought had been extinguished. "Would you like to grab a coffee after this?" I found myself asking, surprised by my boldness. "I'd love that," she replied, her smile brightening the room. We stepped out into the cool evening air, and I felt an exhilarating rush as we walked side by side, exchanging stories. As we sat in a small cafe, sipping our drinks, I could feel my heart opening up again. Emily had a way of making me feel seen and heard, and the laughter we shared felt effortless. We talked about our experiences, and I hesitated for a moment before sharing my recent heartbreak. I wanted to be honest without burdening her with my past, but her response was nothing short of understanding. "It takes courage to start over after something like that," she said softly. "I admire that you're willing to put yourself out there again." Her empathy resonated with me, and in that moment, I realized how far I had come. I was no longer just the man reeling from betrayal. I was someone ready to embrace new possibilities. I felt a glimmer of hope. This could be the start of something beautiful. As our conversation flowed, I found myself laughing more than I had in a long time. The shadows of my past began to fade, replaced by the warmth of this budding connection. Emily wasn't just a distraction. She was a reminder that love and loyalty still existed. The more we talked, the more I realized that I didn't have to carry the weight of my past with me. I could step into this new chapter with an open heart, free from the chains of insecurity and fear. By the end of the night, as we exchanged numbers, I felt a renewed sense of optimism. I was still healing, but meeting Emily made me realize that happiness was not just a distant memory. It was something I could actively pursue again. In the days that followed, we continued to see each other, exploring galleries, going for long walks, and sharing pieces of our lives. With Emily, I felt a sense of ease, a comfort that I hadn't known for a long time. I found myself sharing my dreams and aspirations, things I hadn't dared to speak of with anyone since my world had been turned upside down. Emily encouraged me to paint more, to express my emotions, and I felt inspired to create again. With each passing moment, I began to understand that love didn't have to be complicated or filled with anxiety. It could be a gentle breeze, a shared smile, and a connection that felt genuine. Emily became a part of my healing journey, and with her, I discovered the beauty of opening my heart once more. As the weeks turned into months, my relationship with Emily blossomed in a way I had never expected. The laughter we shared became a balm for my soul, gradually healing the wounds left by my past. However, there was still a lingering shadow of doubt that occasionally crept into my mind, a remnant of the hurt I had experienced with Lisa. I knew that for this new relationship to flourish, I had to confront those fears head-on. One evening, as we sat on the couch together, I decided it was time to be open with Emily. can we talk about something that's been on my mind? I asked, my heart racing slightly. Of course, she replied, her eyes focused on me, encouraging me to share. I want you to know how much I appreciate you and everything you bring into my life, I began. But I also need to be honest about my struggles with trust. My past has made me hesitant to fully open up, and I don't want that to affect what we have. Emily nodded, her expression understanding. I appreciate you being honest with me. I can't imagine how difficult that must be for you. I'm here for you, and I want you to feel safe with me. Her response lifted a weight off my shoulders. I realized how fortunate I was to have someone so compassionate and patient. We talked about my feelings, and in that moment, I felt a bond forming, one built on transparency and mutual respect. As the days passed, I consciously worked on rebuilding my trust. I learned to communicate my fears and insecurities rather than letting them fester. Emily was incredibly supportive, always willing to listen without judgment. One day, while walking through the park, I spotted a couple sitting on a bench, holding hands and laughing. I felt a pang of longing, but it wasn't the old fear that surged through me. It was a yearning for that same joy. I turned to Emily, smiling. I can see us like that one day, I said, feeling a flicker of hope. She looked at me with a warmth that melted away my apprehension. I can see that too, Michael. I want to build a future together, filled with trust and happiness. As our relationship deepened, I found myself slowly letting go of the past. We created our own traditions, cooking dinner together, exploring new art exhibitions, and sharing our dreams over late-night talks. Emily's presence became a source of comfort, a reminder that I was worthy of love and connection. I began to paint again, and this time, the emotions poured out freely. Each brushstroke was a testament to my healing journey. I painted not just the heartache I had endured, but also the joy I was rediscovering in life. It felt exhilarating to create something that represented my growth, a beautiful amalgamation of the past and present. One evening, as I finished a piece that encapsulated my journey of trust and healing, I decided to share it with Emily. This painting reflects how far I've come, I told her as I revealed the canvas. It's a mix of colors, just like my life has been lately. Dark and light, joy and sorrow, all intertwined. Emily studied the painting, her eyes shining with appreciation. It's beautiful, just like your journey. You've come such a long way, and I'm proud of you. Her words filled me with a sense of validation. I had not only survived the storm, but was now thriving, creating a life that embraced love, loyalty, and trust. I realized that happiness wasn't just a destination, it was something to be nurtured daily. As our relationship deepened, I learned to embrace vulnerability. I understood that it was okay to lean on Emily for support, just as she leaned on me. Together, we were creating a foundation built on trust, honesty, and mutual respect. Through this journey, I discovered that love could be both exhilarating and safe. I found happiness in the little moments, watching the sunrise together, sharing our hopes and dreams, and feeling the warmth of each other's presence. Every day felt like a new beginning, and with Emily by my side, I was finally ready to embrace the future, one filled with love, trust, and the happiness I had once thought lost forever. As the seasons changed, so did I. The once chilly evenings of solitude gave way to the warmth of companionship. Sitting on the porch one autumn afternoon, I watched the leaves dance in the wind, and it struck me how much my life had transformed. I felt grateful, not just for Emily and our budding relationship, but for the entire journey that had brought me to this moment. Reflecting on my past, I often thought about Lisa and the pain she caused. There was a time when I believed that her betrayal would define my life forever. I had walked through darkness, feeling lost and broken. But now, sitting in the golden light of a crisp fall day, I saw things differently. The pain of losing my marriage had been a catalyst, pushing me to confront my fears and rediscover myself. It taught me valuable lessons about love, trust, and resilience. I realized that I wouldn't have sought out my own happiness had I not faced that heartbreak. My experience, though painful, had become a pivotal chapter in my life. I thought about the moments of heartbreak and confusion, the nights spent questioning my worth, the emotional turmoil that seemed unending. Yet those experiences had shaped me. They had forced me to examine what I truly wanted and needed in a partner. I learned that love isn't just about loyalty, it's also about understanding, compassion, and the ability to communicate openly. Looking over at Emily, who was busy tending to our small garden, I felt a wave of appreciation wash over me. She had entered my life like a breath of fresh air, reminding me that love could be joyful and nurturing. I admired her dedication to our relationship and her ability to embrace vulnerability. In her presence, I felt free to be myself, flaws and all. That evening, as we sat together on the porch, I turned to Emily. "You know, I've been thinking a lot about my past lately," I said, choosing my words carefully. "And I realize how grateful I am for what I've learned through the pain." She nodded, her expression thoughtful. "It's incredible how we can grow from our struggles. I think that's what makes us stronger. I wouldn't have found you if I hadn't gone through all that." "You've shown me that happiness is possible again," I replied, feeling a sense of closure wash over me. With the sunset painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, I knew I was ready to close the loop on my past. I didn't want to dwell on what had happened with Lisa any longer. Instead, I wanted to focus on the present and the bright future ahead. In that moment, I made a silent promise to myself. I would carry the lessons of my past with me, not as burdens, but as stepping stones toward growth. I wanted to cherish the memories of what I had learned while letting go of the hurt that had lingered too long. As we sipped our tea and shared stories of our day, I felt lighter, more at peace. I was ready to embrace this new chapter of my life fully. It was time to let go of the past and welcome the future with open arms. In the following weeks, I continued to paint, capturing the joy and warmth I felt with Emily. Each canvas became a testament to my journey, a visual representation of the strength I had found within myself. I shared these pieces with her, and together we laughed, cried, and celebrated each milestone. I learned to appreciate the beauty of love in all its forms, understanding that it's not just about avoiding pain, but embracing the fullness of life, its ups and downs, its laughter and tears. Emily became my partner in this journey, someone who not only understood my past, but also inspired me to create a new narrative. As I closed my eyes that night, I reflected on everything I had experienced. I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for the lessons learned, the connections forged, and the love I had found anew. With Emily by my side, I was ready to write the next chapter of my life, one filled with trust, loyalty, and happiness. The past was no longer a weight I carried. It had become a foundation upon which I was building a brighter future.